Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Madry, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
I'm Valerie Comer.
Mollie Rushmeyer is back with us today to talk about her newest book, The Lost Manuscript. So I'm going to go ahead and read your bio, even though you were here recently. I'm going to do it anyway. Sure. So, and everybody, I will draw attention to Molly's cat there over her shoulder.
Yes, there he is, bathing.
He's grooming. And Cooney is also with us. So,
and what's your cat's name, Molly? What's your cat's name?
He has a very proper name. His name is Brooks.
Brooks. Aw, I love it.
Yes, it's the name he came with. Okay. And my daughters liked it. I was like, should we change his name? It sounds so formal for a cat, but they loved it. So he's Brooks.
Brooks. I love it. I love it. So Mollie Rushmeyer writes contemporary fiction with a heart for history. What does this mean exactly? She loves to write inspirational fiction in contemporary settings with fascinating historical elements, people, objects, and stories woven throughout. A modern girl herself, she wouldn't want to go a day without modern plumbing and central air, but she's always felt a special connection to the past. The legacies and lives left behind are like gifts waiting to be unwrapped, and she plans to share this blend of history and contemporary living with readers. A born and bred Midwestern gal, Mollie Rushmeyer makes her home in Minnesota with her husband and two spunky, beautiful daughters. She's not only a bibliophile, the dustier the better, she's a true Anglophile at heart. Tea and coffee fuel her travels, by Google Maps at least, and her passion for the written word. So thank you, Mollie, for coming.
Well, right. Thank you for having me back. I feel like it wasn't that long ago that I was here for my first book. So yeah. This is wild to be back and be talking about a second book already.
Well, and there's a perfect segue. You can just tell us a little bit about the Lost Manuscript.
Sure. So the Lost Manuscript is set in a place that is very near and dear to my heart, Alnwick, England. And as my bio suggests, I am definitely an Anglophile. And so I knew that I had always wanted to set a book in England, and more specifically in Alnwick, because that is a place that I actually went to and studied abroad while I was in college. And so the story is sort of an atypical romance where it is an estranged married couple at the beginning of the story who must come together to work towards finding this lost illuminated medieval manuscript that her grandmother went missing while she was looking for it. And so they are, as much as they're looking to, find this priceless manuscript, they're really trying to find these or follow these clues so that they can figure out what happened to her grandmother.
Mm-hmm. All right, Narelle, your question is first.
It is. So I really enjoyed reading this book, and I especially love the English setting. It was very cool, and the mystery plot in the story with all the historical roots that go along with that. I mean, I am a big fan of reading historical fiction, so if we have any listeners that like reading historicals, definitely put this book on your TBR, because it gives you the contemporary and the historical all mixed up in one, which is lovely. So we've got Ellie's grandma searching for the lost manuscript, and now her grandma's missing in England, and there's lots happening with the mystery. So what was your inspiration for writing a contemporary romance that really has quite a strong historical mystery element in the story?
I've always loved history as well, and maybe someday I will write a historical, I don't know, but there's something that I love about being in a contemporary setting, and just even in my own life, learning about the past and how things were done, learning about the art and, even the wars that happened and, all the different things that came before us, and just learning from that. And it's just always been a passion of mine. I really love medieval history as well. While I was in England, I actually took a couple of medieval history classes. And so that kind of sparked something for me as well, just wanting to dive into that part of, the history in England. And we actually had a chance to go to Lindisfarne, which is something that is talked about in the book, the Lindisfarne Gospels, which are illuminated Gospels, which for those who don't know, that's when they used to paint and actually hand scribe texts, and usually they were religious texts, and then they would illuminate, they say, these beautiful pictures with brilliant colors, and they would call them illuminated because they would use things like gold and silver, so they would literally shine. And so that was just something that I came across too as I was reading some different things, and I just thought, wow, that would be such a cool background for this story, because I do love medieval history, and I have been to Lindisfarne, and these different connections, and that that would just be a really neat thing to include in the story.
Yeah, I really love that, and you could tell that authenticity of the setting really came through for me in the story, so I very much appreciated that.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Concept of the illuminated, can't even say that.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Fast to write, harder to say. Yeah, that whole concept of the illuminated manuscript was interesting, because I didn't know that much about medieval texts, how they'd been. I knew they'd been handwritten for many years, obviously, but hadn't thought much about the decorative aspects of it, I guess.
Yeah, and there's some really beautiful ones out there. I wish the one that I wrote about was real, but there are some real ones out there that are.
Now, spoiler alert, people.
I know, I wish, right? But that's the beauty of fiction. I can, just make it up as I go along.
Yes.
But yeah, there are some beautiful real ones out there as well, and I just was really blown away by these pictures that they did so many years ago. We're talking about like the 800s here, when people had started to do things like that. And so, I was just really inspired by that.
You can, if you're interested, you can Google the Book of Kells, and you'll get some fabulous pictures and examples of illustrated manuscripts that way. Or if you ever go to Dublin, you can see it at Trinity College. Kells, the Book of Kells.
Yes,
it's fantastic.
Yes. Yep.
That's what I pictured while I was reading. A page out of that.
Absolutely. And you can also Google the Lindisfarne Gospels, because those are real as well.
Oh, cool.
And I talk about those in this story.
Yeah.
But the Lindisfarne, so it's Lindisfarne. Not quite as easy to spell, unfortunately, but I bet if you start typing that into Google, it'll get it for you.
Yeah.
The Lindisfarne Gospels.
Nice. Excellent. All right, Valerie.
So Ellie and Alex, they start this story as quite broken people. Each of them feeling alone in a world that doesn't care about them. And because it's an estranged marriage situation, they also don't feel the other person cares about them. They both feel betrayed, not only by each other, but by the loss of other vital relationships by death or distance. Can we talk a bit about how you built these backstories and how that came to play?
Sure. And are you just asking like how I kind of came up with those ideas, or what would you like me to speak?
However your brain interprets that question, just take it and run for a few minutes.
Yeah, well, I think when I started this out, I definitely knew that I wanted to have a non-traditional love story with a married couple. I wanted to tap into, some real places of hurt that I think many people have gone through in their relationships. This might be an extreme case, certainly, but right. But, just really speak to that area where we've all been in whatever relationships we might have. Like it might be a spouse, it might be a friendship or a parent that, we've really felt unheard, and we felt like we couldn't share something that we wanted to share with that person. Maybe we feared their reaction. Maybe we hoped for a certain reaction, but we knew we weren't going to get it. So why bother telling them, or we feared a different kind of reaction. Maybe they'd be upset with us. And so we just don't want to even go there and tell them the truth of really how we're feeling, or something that maybe has happened in our life. And so I think I just really wanted to get real with people about relationships and how hard they are. But really through the story, showing that while it might be painful, we do need to be truthful with the people that we care about. How can a person possibly support us or get to a place where they can support us if we don't tell them the truth about ourselves, about how we're feeling, about things that have happened in our lives? And so that was kind of the essence of like what I wanted to share with those two characters, and, you know, them learning about how to be in this relationship together more successfully, more truthfully, more selflessly. They really have a lot to learn at the beginning of the book, but I think we all do. We all have a lot to learn in our own lives and relationships. So I guess I just wanted to take us through that whole scenario of like, how do these people, how could they possibly come back together? You know, at the beginning of the story, you might think like, how, there's no way these two people can end up back together. But, you know, it takes a lot of forgiveness and time to work through all the things that they've gone through to come to a place where they can move forward with their marriage. So I guess that was kind of the inspiration. And as far as, you know, the kind of different backstories that they had, I think I just knew that I needed things where the two characters had both lost. And I think that, was it you, Valerie, that had said that part as part of the question, where, you know, they both have gone through so many different losses, but like, how can you still move forward and know that God still loves you? Even if bad things have happened, even if you have experienced losses, that doesn't mean he doesn't love and care for you. And so, yeah, I think that was kind of like my process of, you know, deciding on those different things.
Yeah, because both of them, their family backgrounds and,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff too were strong.
Yes.
Back there.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
So you kind of answered my question too.
Oh, sorry, that's what happens when I ramble.
It's good, because I'm gonna you said at the start of answering Valerie's questions that you knew that you wanted a non-traditional couple. So
yes.
why? What? Let's talk about that. Why? What was exciting to you about that prospect, or why? You know,
on a personal writer level, I like to challenge myself. People have been like, really? Why? You know, they're like, those are hard to do. Are you sure you want to do a married couple? And, you know, I think I dug my feet in and I was like, yeah, I really do. I like to challenge myself as a writer. But not only that, I think I just really want to write something for the person who maybe reads a regular romance where they meet on page 1 with their meet cute. And not that those stories aren't amazing. I write those kinds of stories too. But, you know, for the person who maybe just doesn't really see themselves in that type of relationship or that kind of situation, to be able to say, well, you know what, you can still have a love story, even if somebody is married and maybe they're just going through a really tough time right now. And so I think I just was like, you know what, I'm going to do something a little bit different than, you know, the average meet cute here. And I'm going to do a married couple and, you know, just have them kind of work on their relationship.
They're completely estranged at the beginning.
yeah,
For
yeah,
our
exactly.
watchers and listeners.
yes.
And they've been apart now for how long at the beginning of the story?
Okay, so I think it's been like 10 months, if I remember right. I
Yeah.
changed that so many different times just with editing.
Yeah.
So I'm really sorry if I'm getting that wrong, but I want to say it's been like 10 months of him living abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually it wouldn't be the same story if it wasn't a married couple romance. Like when you get to the end of the book and you look at what happens, how do I say this without spoilers? What happens at the end is like the full circle from where they started at the beginning. So you get that completion of the journey. So there's certain, and how the faith arc in the story ties into that is just beautiful. I really enjoyed it. And I can be a hard sell on married couple romance. I don't always like it. So just so you've done very well, because I do really love this story. But I really appreciated how you went to all those really those sort of deep, dark places where people don't necessarily want to go there. It's just there's too much hurt, there's too much trauma, there's too much pain, that you are prepared to actually go there and really push the characters to deal with all the baggage they have, and also how does God fit into this. And I love the faith element in the story. And it wasn't a lot of books you read, the faith elements very subtle and very sort of under the radar, whereas in this book it was very much on the page. And I appreciated how that fitted in also with the historical stuff that came in. So you won me with this book.
In addition, like, I feel like often my experience with married couple romance is that sometimes it feels as though the faith parts are trite, almost like the just pray and then it'll all be fine kind of thing. And you didn't do that, which I really appreciated. As well, because I'm not generally a huge fan of married romance. I did like this one, but a lot of that is because you go into, to me, it's like the worst thing in the world to think of a marriage crumbling. Like that destroys my heart. And so to go there, to me, it's like you can't have a light faith arc. And you can't just, oh, well, now we'll go to church and it'll all be fine. Like, because you have to do more than that, because in the real world, and I get that fiction is not the real world, but if you're going to do restoring a marriage, if you're going to restore a marriage, you need to be in the real world, so that people who read it, who are in the midst of a broken relationship, don't go, wow, if only I prayed better, maybe it would work for me too, because that's certainly not what we want people to walk away from our books and think.
While prayer is important.
Yes, no, absolutely. I'm not saying don't pray.
That's the thing with fiction, right? We take some reality and often pull it to an extreme to illustrate a point. And so the hard places, you hope that most of our readers haven't been to quite as negative a place as what some of our characters might have, although others have dived much deeper into hard things. But for the average reader, still hopefully they can find their hope.
Right. I think that, just to have that character arc, I needed to go to some of those darker places and have them really feel that rawness of, where they're at. And I think that it's good to show in fiction that we all struggle and wrestle with God in certain areas. That doesn't make us bad. It doesn't make us not Christians or that we don't love God, but we might struggle on certain points and want to know, what does this mean? And so, I really wanted to go there and, like you said, not have the, sort of perfect Christian character that already has it all together. And, we're just going to pray about it. And we know that that's, going to solve everything. And yes, Valerie, like, prayer is absolutely very important, but, there's more to it than that. And certainly in this story, there's a lot more that needs to happen in order for these two to come back together, and also to heal their relationship, not just with each other, but with God as well.
Right.
Well, and it almost, I mean, and it is, again, in real life, you made it very clear. I felt like healing their relationship with God was sort of the first step toward being able to heal their relationship with one another, which is so true in life. You do need your own walk with Jesus to be in a good place if you're going to be able to then live like Jesus wants us to in our relationships with one another.
That's so true. You know, it really does start with that relationship with God. You can't look to another human, another person, whether they're your spouse or whatever, to heal you or make you whole as a person. That's just never going to work. And so you're absolutely right. Like they needed to, you know, heal that relationship with God before they could really hope to heal the relationship they have with each other.
Yeah. Cool. Well, what is next for you?
Well, I am kind of working on a lot of different things right now. And so like I am working on a contemporary romance, and yes, there's a meet cute. So working on some sample chapters and a proposal for that. And then I'm also pitching a couple of ideas that are a little bit more I would guess kind of like closer related to my first two books that have some of those deeper issues. There is a romance in it, and a little bit of that historical thread that I like to do. And so I'm working on a couple of ideas for that as well. We are still kind of looking for a home, a publisher for those ideas. That's just how publishing goes. It's kind of a long process to do all of that. But yeah, so I'm just keeping very busy writing.
Excellent. That's great.
Cool.
That's fantastic. Well, hopefully they will find homes and
Yes.
then make their way to our hands.
I sure hope so.
Yes.
Shortly
Prayers are
thereafter.
always appreciated.
Yeah. Excellent. If people want to keep up with that, do you have a newsletter on your website that they can sign up for?
I do, yes. So it's www.mollie, MOLLIE, J Rushmeyer, and that's just how it sounds, RUSHMEYER.com. And you can sign up for my newsletter. And I do keep people kind of posted about like, you know, what's going on in my writer's world, you know, any upcoming releases or contracts or sales on my current books. But we also do some fun things as well. I do a tea and book pairing, which is really fun to do, and everybody seems like that. So I kind of like take a book from my to be read pile or something I'm currently reading, and then I match it up to a tea that I think would go well with it. Just kind of taps into my love of all things English. So
all right, well then we have to know before we close out, what tea should we drink when we read the Lost Manuscript?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I don't have like a very specific flavor in mind other than like I would suggest like a very English tea, like an Earl Grey would be great. A Lady Grey if you like a little bit lighter, more citrus flavor, something like that. Because of course it's set in England, so you want a very good English tea.
Excellent.
Well, I was drinking English breakfast. Is my Twinings English breakfast extra strong?
That's a good one too.
Yes, I would drink my English tea when I read these books.
My friend who grew up in England
idea.
would say that it would be PG Tips because that is her go-to for tea at all times. But but I like Earl Grey a lot, so I'll do that.
Yeah.
Plus, then I can.
And the only reason I don't.
I can say tea, Earl Grey, hot. That's a Star Trek thing if for the non-nerdy among you.
Yeah, no, my husband watches that and I have watched it as well. So yeah, no, I totally get it. And the only reason I don't say English breakfast, okay, so here's my thing about certain teas. I think that I've just developed, maybe I'm just like I've spoiled myself too much on flavored teas. Like when I go back to just like a straight up English breakfast, I'm like, oh, it feels like it's missing something. Like I need a something in it. So that's why I do tend to go towards more of like the Earl Grey or something with, you know, just like an added flavor to it. But yes, if you want to do like the straight up, yeah, probably the English would say, you know, just a straight up tea. That's probably going to be your best bet.
You would love visiting my house. I would probably have about 30 different tea varieties in my cupboard.
Excellent.
I love different types.
Okay,
And I mean,
yes.
and when I read English books, I don't drink French Earl Grey tea when I, which I do like when I read English books because it's wrong. I do this. I just worked out I do my weird pairing of books with tea as well. I just do that as a reader. So I read my English breakfast. If I read an Irish book, I'd be drinking Irish breakfast.
Irish breakfast,
yes.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, weird. That's all I can say.
Valerie's like, I just want water. Thank you.
Oh, I love my tea.
I do most of my reading in the hour before bed, so definitely a caffeinated anything
is bad
out.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
Also, probably not the best idea. Anyways.
Thank you, Mollie, for hanging out with us again. We really enjoyed
thank you so much for having me.
And
yes, it was so fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Please, everyone, stop by the YouTube channel or the Facebook page and let us know what you thought. Have you read The Lost Manuscript? Are you going to? You should. So we would love to hear from you. You can leave us a comment. While you're there on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And we will look forward to seeing you again next week. In the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.